Bienvenidos amigos a un programa más de Nerds y no tan Nerds. Como ya saben, tenemos la segunda parte de la entrevista con nuestro grandísimo invitado de honor, Aaron. Pero antes que nada, vámonos a la realidad. Nuevo tráiler de Andor 2 disponible. Estamos ansiosos de poder ver esta segunda parte de la que quizás es la mejor historia de Star Wars de los últimos 3 años. Bueno, Ahsoka también nos gustó y en este corto pudimos ver más de la acción que desencadenará el nacimiento de la rebelión contra el Imperio.
A celebrar 30 años de Toy Story. Así es amigos, 3 décadas han pasado desde que aprendimos a mirar a los juguetes de una forma diferente y Disney junto con Pixar nos compartieron un emotivo video en donde pudimos ver a Woody, a Buzz y a su banda recordándonos por qué siempre queremos ir al infinito y más allá.
Habemos Hagrid para la serie de Harry Potter. Al parecer y según la exclusiva de Deadline, el reconocido actor británico Nick Frost será el encargado de tomar la larga barba de Rubius Hagrid en el serial televisivo. Como bien sabemos, Robbie Coltrane se encargó de darle vida en las últimas pelis y esperamos que su interpretación llegue a las alturas de este.
Pikachu y compañía en protesta. Hace unos días Turquía se prendió en fuego con las marchas antirrepresivas en contra del gobierno fascista de Erdogan y la captura de su contendiente Imamoglu. En medio de todo esto, Pikachu, Batman y Joker se unieron a la protesta. Libertad para Turquía.
Se revela fecha de estreno de la peli de Zelda. ¿Qué mejor forma de estrenar la aplicación de Nintendo Today que con la fecha de lanzamiento de la adaptación al cine de esta franquicia de la casa de Link? Será el 26 de marzo de 2027 cuando la podamos disfrutar en la pantalla grande. Y bueno amigos, ya estamos de regreso de la realidad y pues como bueno, ya saben y ya lo vieron en los títulos, estamos aquí con Aaron, que es un desarrollador de un juego que se llama Neyyah y que ya Eduardo hizo un review hace unas semanas acerca de este videojuego. Y bueno, es un desarrollador de videojuegos, músico, compositor y diseñador
fundador de Defy,
Reality Entertainment.
Defy Reality Entertainment, of course.
Y pues bueno, vamos a continuar con esta grandiosa entrevista que afortunadamente nos está dando la oportunidad Aaron de tener. Y pues bueno amigos, sin más, let's switch to English and we're gonna talk about now, Aaron, about the player experience and accessibility. So what kind of experience do you want players to have when they explore the Neyyah's world?
So yeah, that's a good question. Because it can vary, I think, from the feedback that I got recently from the demo. It definitely showed how people experience the game in different ways and whether that was good or bad. The main thing with Neyyah exploring the game and experiencing the game is the exploration. So being able to have that sense of adventure and being able to just get in there and try and work out, you know, why you're there yourself as a player, although you play yourself, but then working out the world you're in order to make progress and find out why you have to make that progress as well. So it's always just the question of why and how, or even when sometimes. And it's very much, you know, influenced by, say, you know, the old Mist and Riven games, for example. But yeah, I think being able to, in some way, it's kind of a reflection of our own kind of lives as well. So like the sense of adventure, like if you know, experience what you experienced in Neyyah, you can get something out of that, and hopefully maybe that will kind of inspire you in your own life as well. And I think that's what adventure games are so good at, or being able to escape into another world, for example, you know, is always a cool thing. So there's so many different elements to it.
Great. And well, with adventure games, we always have this situation that they always have these cryptic puzzles that are sometimes very difficult for players to have. So I remember myself playing, I don't know, 11 Hour back in the 90s or Alone in the Dark even, and always the cryptic puzzles were very challenging. So how do you manage to have these cryptic puzzles in Neyyah but not have the players to be really frustrated while playing? Because sometimes it's really frustrating that you're playing and then you find yourself into a cryptic puzzle that you just can't manage to solve, and you get desperate and you want to just throw away the
or go to YouTube and
or do you go to YouTube and you find like a walkthrough, no? So the thing is that without getting to go to that part where you start looking for a walkthrough or a guide or anything. How do you
Right.
manage to develop these puzzles without them being very frustrating for players?
I think one of the big things that was added there was the traveler's guide. So basically, that kind of acts as like an observations list. It's like an automated observations list. So you get when you come across something that's very specific for the game progression, like maybe a machine or something that will help you solve puzzles, then it will appear in your traveler's guide, and it will be like a bit of text saying, "I have come across this machine." It might even have like there seems to be a pipe that's leading from the side. Where does that pipe lead to? So it actually kind of like it's almost like the player asking themselves a question. So it doesn't give so much like a hint, and it won't tell you the answer, but it's enough, and you can even click on it. So you click on there on the different text, and it will show you an image of where you were when you came across that text, that hint, that observation. So I think that kind of thing really helps because a lot of players, you may have found this yourself, when you played a game like Riven or Mist and you don't play it for like hours or days, it's hard to know where you were when you last left off. Like, where was I in this game? What am I doing? And that can lead to frustration as well because there's a lot to take on with these games, especially with Nia. And yeah, I think yeah, the observations really help because they're location by location based. So every location you go to, it will show up in that particular location. Glorfiak mines, for example, from the demo, the Gafunkai zone, which is at the beginning when you arrive, and they'll be in different sections. So then, as you're exploring, you might think, okay, what did I see in that location? Open the traveler's guide up, and you can start piecing together things. So becomes a bit of a kind of like a text adventure sort of thing, I suppose, in that way. But I think the best thing is to kind of write down your own notes because it even says in the traveler's guide, recommended to write down your own notes, just like the old days with Mist and Riven, because I feel that's kind of like very genuine and so like authentic to your own playing style. Another thing as well, in terms of, I guess, it kind of comes under the puzzle elements, is the interactions. So you have like action highlights. You press the space bar, it will show up what you can interact with, like a blue kind of glow, which is quite cool. So you don't get kind of stuck just clicking around all the time. So there's certain things that will help you. And I think certain things like reading journals and notes, you have a clearer text option, so you can actually make the font that is used, the text that you see, can become clearer if you click on it, left click, and you can then read it a lot easier. So there's certain things that just are just there to kind of help you in certain situations. But I think it's really down to observing
That's
and
always
videos. Yeah.
greatly appreciated because sometimes it's very difficult for players to keep going on a video game that you just don't know where to go. And as you said it at the very beginning of this interview on the last episode, that it's a game aimed for players who just have to have an observation basis regularly just to get to see these things. But with the traveler's guide, it's actually pretty good because you won't get lost. If you have any doubts, you just go to the traveler's guide and then you see, oh, okay, so I gotta go and do this. But
Yeah.
even though you just can't keep playing around the game and the world within the game, so it's very cool. So what other accessibility features for players who are not used to this genre do you manage to have on the game that will help them like to be able to play without getting frustrated if they don't know the genre of the game?
Yeah, so I think that comes down to what I added recently, which is not in the demo, which I mentioned earlier. I think about the frustrations of too much handheld elements, but having like a journey mode, where you can select at the beginning whether you want to play as guided mode or adventure mode, and then you have the ability to have more of the kind of pop-ups that you sort of have at the beginning, which kind of show up as like prompts, basically, like a tutorial that basically go through. Oh, by the way, you have uh, journey tools that has the traveler's guide, the maps, the character interactions. You have this is how you control, use these arrows, the cursors. Um, those kind of things really do help, I think, in a lot of ways. Even though I was never going to have anything like that at the beginning. I never sort of saw. I was kind of very stuck in that mist-riven kind of vision. But yeah, I think it was the first event I had in Perth, Western Australia, because I lived in Western Australia for 7 years. That's where I started Neyyah. It was one of these events I was at where I showcased Neyyah for the first time to a huge group of people. And the big, some interesting things are just coming out like, what's my first goal? What do I do? What's my first thing I should be doing? What am I doing here? And just things like that. And it's just, in my head, I'm like, well, you just explore, you find out as you explore. But the thing is, the modern game has changed so much since the days of like Myst and Tomb Raider and everything. And back then you could get like the guides and stuff and buy the books and stuff that I used to have when I was a kid. But it is quite different now. So you have to kind of you have to sort of change things a little bit. And I still keep the vision alive, so that's pretty cool. And it became quite fun actually adding some of these different elements to it. But yeah, I think the adventure mode is quite cool because you don't have any of that. If you want to kind of just go here, you still have access to the maps and everything, but you won't be prompted like you are if you go guided mode. So you don't have so many interruptions while you're exploring. So that's kind of a cool thing as well, I think, for some players. Yeah.
Nice. Hey, Aaron, and talking the next steps. What's the next for you and
Oh,
Nancy and all the Defy reality entertainment team? What's next after Nia? Are you
yeah.
considering expansion of the future in the same universe?
Mm, yeah. So there's a lot in Nia. There's a lot in the universe. There's a lot of story, and I mean, I even want to write. I want to try and get into writing some books that are based in the world because I think it would be great to kind of outside of a game, you can only really tell so much. And I've always been into writing as well. So it'd be really cool to get back into the writing elements of things and probably explore different like even like a trilogy of books or a saga that just really go into the lore and the universe a lot more, which would be quite cool. I think that'd be quite cool to do down the track anyway. But in terms of that, yeah, in terms of games, I've got there's a couple of different kind of projects. Couple of different projects. I can't really say too much about them at the moment, but definitely probably looking at, Unreal Engine 5 has come into it a bit more, like the idea of using it. But then I kind of love this, it's kind of seeing how the game goes. What's the reception like for a pre-rendered point and click first person game where you are restricted just to like, images. And there hasn't really been any really bad feedback on that. And I always thought to myself, how's it going to go down? And I never really cared because that's kind of the way I wanted to make the game in the beginning. I thought, nah, I'm just going to do it this way. Even if I have one player playing it, that'd be cool. But yeah, I think, I would like to kind of continue doing it in this style because it has turned out quite nicely. It kind of makes the game quite unique in what's out there at the moment as well. And I think that's what Microprose, particularly because they're really into their retro style games, then that's what really appealed to them. Like the fact that it's kind of going back to that old technology. And yeah, that's been really fun.
A
And it's
very
kind
good
of
point.
fast. It's fast to use. I'm not much of a
Yeah.
programmer. So using Vision S Studio 5, you can get things done quite fast. and it limits the bugs because I think, say, Riven, the remake, Firmament, or all these kind of new Cyan games, which are amazing, and they involve VR, which is another thing that Neyyah would be quite cool if it was a VR version, but the technology involved is just a lot more than, I guess, by technical abilities can really achieve, but also, there's a lot that goes into that. So much more work, so much, it would take a lot more to achieve, I suppose. Um, so I know that I can achieve, if I wanted to create a world and tell a story, this is kind of the way I saw it in the beginning. Just use what I kind of already know and obviously learn along the way. But again, just getting things done as well. And that's kind of what I've been able to achieve with Neyyah, which is quite cool. Yeah.
Well, and for example, in the case of Neyyah is successful, would you be interested in working in a sequel?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I can't really say too much about it, but there's a lot more, a lot more to Neyyah and its universe, that's for sure.
Okay, okay.
Nice.
Nice.
And where do you see the adventure game genre going in the future? And how would you like to contribute to its evolution to the genre? It's very interesting.
Good
Well, you're
question.
talking about the technology, for example.
Yeah. See, I think I know Cyan, like the guys who are behind Mist and Riven, like they're really pushing for VR. Like their thing is VR. And that's that's moving forward, isn't it? I think it's becoming more well, there's still I guess there would people say it's a niche market still, but it's definitely I don't know, so many people are saying, oh, it should be Neyyah, it should be in VR. That would be so cool just to be able to move around in Neyyah in VR. I guess it would be. I think the reason I went point and click is because of that charm that those old point and click games have, and the atmosphere that they have as well. I really like the pre-rendered graphics. So I had someone recently that said, it felt like I was actually in Unreal Engine 5, like real time, but every time I clicked, it would just be like the camera moving, something like that. But it wasn't, Unreal at all. It wasn't real time. Everything is pre-rendered. So I kind of like that style myself just because of the kind of realism, especially with Blender. You can create some really realistic looking graphics. And if you got the right textures and the lighting and everything comes together, pretty much like Neyyah, I mean, I love the detail in the models as well. So when I create the models, I love adding all the bolts in things. You might have noticed those kind of things. I kind of, even if you don't notice them, I think it's like it's in like in the real world when you're moving around and you're seeing things, you don't really notice all the details, but you know that it makes up what you perceive as, real. And I think that's what Neyyah does, even though it's point and click. So you are restricted to screen, but I think that's kind of cool because then you can focus on what you need to focus on as well. Um, I think 360 degree, the Mist 3 kind of game, Amazon, those kind of games where it's 360-degree panoramic would be kind of cool to look at. But then I guess that would it had like the goldfish kind of vibe of like everything kind of warped a bit on the sides, or you kind of became a bit disorientated or nauseous as well. So oh, another thing with Neo is that it can run on really low specs because you don't have to worry about video cards, like powerful graphics cards or anything like that. You could run it on quite a simple machine. Um, so that's a cool thing. You don't have to worry about the loading times as well. I don't know. There's quite a lot of benefits, but then there's also looking at the other things that Unreal Engine can do, I suppose, and it's all over the place. I think it comes down to like your own preference, I suppose, or your own abilities. But then, you know, see what happens with like the audience reception as well. And if it goes down really well, I'm definitely going to be going ahead with more of that kind of point and click style because I think it's rarely done these days as well. and I think it could inspire other game developers to kind of go down that route. And I'd love to do some videos on like my work in Visionaire and how I achieved certain things, and it might inspire similar kind of games to come back in, which is kind of funny because everything's moving forward, but if you take a step back, it becomes something unique as well, which is kind of cool. Mm.
Ah, thank you very much, Aaron. We are near the end of the interview, and we have three more questions for you.
Actually,
Otherwise,
For
yeah, go for it.
Exactly.
for those who are new to adventure games, why they should be playing Nia?
Wow, Neo would be a really cool adventure game to get into because the key element, the core of Nia's kind of soul as a game is the adventure game. It's the adventure that you have. The puzzles kind of come in after a little bit, I'd say. Like it isn't like a Rubik's Cube or anything like that that you have to solve. And it's the world and the story that really kind of come into it. Like what the cultures that are in the world, learning about this, this universe that you've come into, and what it means to you as well. And I think it's also it's a long game. It's a big world to explore, so you can really take your time and take your time exploring it and playing it. And there's a lot to experience in Nia. That's for sure.
Okay, so amigos, you know where to start with the adventure genre. You have to play Nia. Where can fans follow the development of Nia and support your work? You have social media profiles. This is the time. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely wishlist Nia on Steam. You can also follow the game on Steam as well. But mainly I'm active on Facebook under Defy Reality Entertainment. So I'm posting on there a lot. Also Twitter, X, Instagram, and I'm also building up the YouTube channel under Aaron Gwynaire Game Dev. So I'm doing a lot more kind of devlog work. Trying to get more videos in if the game development kind of permits. But yeah, looking at really building that channel up. And it has been building up really recently, really nicely. So after the game comes out, there'll be a lot more devlogs and into future projects. So it's quite cool. So yeah, check out Defy Reality Entertainment or Nia on pretty much any social media, and you'll find it.
And before the final message, Aaron, what are other nerdy hobbies that you have, things that you do that are considered nerd? Because this show is called From Nerds and Not So Nerds. So what other activities you do that you consider being really nerd that people can relate to?
Besides music or video game development.
Outside of those, well, I don't know. There's a few. Crikey. Well, I do. Well, I love taking photos in general. Like I'm really getting into my photography. I need to get a better phone, to be honest, to get some really nice pictures. Yeah, I like collecting things as well. I started a nice video unboxed game collection at one point. Starting to try and hopefully build that up a bit more. I love collecting things, various different things, because I live right by the seaside. So seeing things like cool shells and stuff like that. I'm quite like a visual person. So yeah, pretty things. But yeah, things like that. I mean, mainly, to be fair, my life is very much creating Nia right now. It's because I was into the gym at one point. I used to do at the gym a lot, but then the memberships became quite expensive, and then also nearing the end of the game development, things get quite busy, and there's a lot of crunch time. So I try and balance my life out a little bit as much as I can, but I know that going into the second game and another project, there's going to be a lot more kind of life work balance. But it's good stuff. Just getting the game finished, that's the main kind of goal right now. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Any final message for your fans or for aspiring game developers that you think that it's really needed to know for them?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say I think I might have mentioned this before, but definitely I'd say there's no real right way of doing things, but just being able to kind of follow your passion, but being able to learn along the way, learn the new things, and learning's really good, but also doing things is really good as well, and getting things done. And I think the I'd say the general advice is to start with small games first. If you're getting into game development, because you can learn from the mistakes, and I guess the general idea is always kind of given out there that you should start small games and kind of, they don't have to be perfect games and they might not really do really well and all that kind of stuff. I find that with Neyyah, and I've been on this game, this is my first game, it's going to be my first released game. While I've done little projects here and there, they were kind of like little tests that I did, along the way. So I think with a big project, it also gives you the kind of like the motivation and the passion to keep going with things. And you can learn a lot along the way as well. You can definitely learn a lot within, a couple of years, 3 years, doesn't have to be 7 years. It could be shorter than that. But, just like a big project, I think is kind of worthwhile. I find it really fulfilling. And there's a lot, it's like a time capsule of life because once the game's out, that's a lot of different parts of my life in that game. So can't wait to share it with everyone.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very much, Aaron. We are we have a great time with you in this two-part interview.
See you guys,
and hope to see you soon again in our
yeah,
channel.
definitely.
Maybe
Thank you so much.
Nerdos y nerdas, con nosotros el señor Aaron Gwynaire.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here with us, Aaron. And when I can see you in these lands.
Yeah. What was that say?
Well, when I can see you in these lands in Mexico, in America.
Well, I love traveling. Like obviously I lived in Australia for quite a while. So yeah, I would love to. Me and my girlfriend want to travel a lot, so it'd be quite cool to come over. That would be nice.
If you ever come over to Mexico, please contact us, and
Exactly.
We can have you and make a tourist guide tour here in Mexico.
That'd be cool. Hey, yeah, that'd be really nice.
But
Definitely.
Thank you so much for being here with us, and we always invite everyone to subscribe to our channel and to give a like and leave a comment and all that. But perhaps you might be able to help us after we finish the episode, so we can have a short or a TikTok thing that we can post it, like you saying, inviting everyone to subscribe. But we deal with that later. But from now, we're just so thankful to have you here. And we look forward to have you another time. If you keep going, if Neyyah goes really big, we're gonna be so happy for you, and we're gonna praise and keep posting things about your game development, so that you can get a couple of fans here and there in Mexico. So which will help you, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
A bigger game developer. So thank you so much for coming. If you're watching this channel from the other side of the world, in Australia or in England or
London,
Great Britain or London or wherever, please leave a comment, hit the subscribe button, and we're gonna keep making these programs for you. And it's been such a pleasure for us to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Así
It's
que-
been really cool.
Okay.
Así como lo dijo Al en inglés, suscríbanse, compartan el contenido, denle like a la campanita y pues nos vemos en el siguiente episodio. Thank you so much, Aaron. Ale, Samo, manténganse a salvo y nos vemos la próxima.
Hasta pronto.